All right, so today we're diving deep into something pretty messed up. It's called the Badger game, and it's a scam that's been around forever, but it's still scary as heck.
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll know exactly how it works, plus a little bit about its history, and, most importantly, how to protect yourself from becoming a victim.
You know, it's crazy how this scam has managed to trick people for over a century. The Badger game is all about extortion. They lure you into a situation where they can make it look like you did something wrong, and then they threaten to tell everyone about it unless you pay them.
It's like something straight out of an old movie, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot more than just money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This scam really messes with people's emotions. They make you think they're your friend, even like they're falling for you. But it's all an act. Then, out of nowhere, they turn on you, and everything changes.
So basically, they set this trap, and then they just spring it on you. What are some of the things they do to set it up?
Well, imagine you meet someone online, or maybe at a bar, and they seem totally into you. Like it feels like love at first sight. But the whole thing is fake. They're leading you into a situation that could completely ruin your reputation.
Okay, what kind of situations are we talking about?
It could be anything really, like staged photos that make you look like you're cheating on your partner, or even fake accusations of assault. They come up with these crazy scenarios just to make you panic.
And then the accomplices come in, right, to make the whole thing seem more believable.
Exactly. They might pretend to be witnesses or even cops. Or sometimes they act like they're the scammer's concerned friend. It's all about putting pressure on the victim.
Wow, it's kind of chilling how much planning goes into this. So at that point, the victim either has to pay up or risk everyone finding out about this fake scandal. Is there even any other way out?
Well, a lot of victims feel like they have no choice but to pay. They're so scared of what might happen if the scammer tells everyone.
So they feel trapped.
Right. But here's the thing. Paying them off almost never actually solves the problem.
I was just going to ask about that. Our source material mentioned that technology makes these threats seem even more real these days.
Definitely. They might create fake photos or videos to use as proof. Imagine if they leaked intimate pictures of you online or made up a story about you having an affair. Technology makes these threats so much scarier.
It's a scary thought. So even if the victim pays, there's no guarantee it'll stop there.
Sadly, no. The scammer often sees the victim as an easy target and keeps demanding more money. It's a vicious cycle. The victim lives in constant fear, waiting for the next threat.
It's easy to judge the victims, but we have to remember that they're under a lot of pressure. I can't even imagine how this would impact their lives.
It's devastating. They could lose a lot of money, damage their reputation, and even face legal problems. And the emotional toll is huge. The shame, the guilt, the anxiety, it can completely destroy their sense of security.
You said earlier that this scam targets people's fears. Who's most likely to fall victim to something like this?
Well, anyone could be a target. But it's often people who are really worried about what others think of them. Like politicians, celebrities, business leaders, people whose careers depend on having a good public image.
So the more successful they are, the bigger the target on their back.
Exactly. Scammers know those people have a lot to lose, so they're more likely to pay up to avoid a scandal.
That's messed up. Our society's obsession with celebrity and judging people in the public eye must make these scams even more effective.
I think so, yeah. The Badger game plays on our deepest fears, like social ruin and shame. And the sad truth is that the more successful and visible you are, the more you have to lose.
It's already giving me a lot to think about. The Badger game really shows the dark side of human nature. It's incredible what some people will do to take advantage of others. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how this scam targets people who are really worried about their reputations, like those in the public eye. So let's take a step back and look at the history of the Badger game. Our source material said it's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, it has. People think the term Badger game came from the United States during Prohibition. That was a crazy time with all sorts of illegal stuff going on.
It makes sense that reputation was a big deal back then, especially if you were trying to look respectable during such a wild era.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that a scam from the 1920s is still relevant today.
Yeah, I know, right? It shows that even though the methods might change, the psychology behind the Badger game stays the same. It's all about taking advantage of people's weaknesses and fears.
The source material also mentioned that Hollywood and public figures have been targeted by this scam. Can you talk more about that?
Well, think about the pressure those people are under. One mistake, even if it's completely made up, could ruin their career, their relationships, their whole life. The stakes are super high.
So their fame actually makes them more vulnerable.
Exactly. Scammers know that public figures will pay a lot of money to protect their image. They don't want a scandal.
It's like their fame is used against them. Speaking of historical examples, did you know that a politician was once targeted by the Badger game?
Oh yeah, back in the early 1900s. A really famous politician got caught up in a scandal that shocked everyone. The details are kind of unclear, but a lot of people believe he was a victim of the Badger game. He paid a ton of money to keep the whole thing quiet.
It just goes to show that anyone can be a target. It doesn't matter how rich or powerful you are. The pressure to protect your reputation can make people do crazy things. So, knowing how dangerous and damaging this scam can be, what can we do to avoid becoming a victim?
It all starts with being careful, especially in new relationships or when you meet someone for the first time. Don't be afraid to ask questions, double-check things, and if something feels wrong, trust your gut.
So basically, be a little skeptical.
Yeah, exactly. Also, be careful about who you share personal information with, both online and in person. It's easy to share too much on social media, but that can give scammers the information they need to manipulate you. Think twice before posting those vacation pictures or talking about your personal life.
It's like you're giving them a roadmap to your life.
That's a good way to put it. You never know who's watching or how that information could be used against you. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
What if you think you're already being targeted? What should you do?
The most important thing is don't pay them. I know it might seem like the easiest solution when you're panicking, but it usually just makes things worse.
So if you give in, they just keep asking for more.
Yep. Instead of paying, call the police right away. They can investigate and maybe even catch the scammers.
It can be hard to admit you've been scammed.
I know, but it's the right thing to do. And by reporting it, you might even stop them from hurting someone else. Remember, you're not alone in this.
This has been really helpful. Before we move on, I'd like to hear your final thoughts on how to stay safe from the Badger game.
Well, knowledge is power. The more you know about how these scams work, the better you can protect yourself. Learn to recognize the warning signs and take steps to keep your personal information safe.
That's great advice. By being informed and aware, we can protect ourselves and the people we care about.
Exactly. And remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Trust your gut, be careful, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Great advice. We'll be right back after the break with some final thoughts on this crazy topic. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the Badger game. It's been fascinating, for sure,
Yeah.
but definitely a bit unsettling, too, learning about all this scamming and manipulation.
You know what gets me is, this isn't just about stealing money, it's about something way deeper, like taking advantage of human weaknesses, especially our fear of being judged and what could happen if people found out our secrets.
It makes you wonder about how much power our reputation has in society and how easily someone could use it against us. But let's not get too philosophical here. Let's talk about what our listeners can actually do to protect themselves.
Right. So as we said before, awareness is super important. Understanding how the Badger game works, recognizing the red flags, and keeping your personal information safe, all of that can really lower your risk of becoming a victim.
You've given us some great advice already. Do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I guess the biggest thing is, trust your gut. If something feels off or too good to be true, it probably is. Don't be afraid to ask questions, double-check things, and set boundaries, You always have the right to say no and walk away from any situation that makes you feel weird.
That's so true. Sometimes we feel like we have to be polite or agreeable, but
Yeah.
when it comes to our safety and feeling good, we got to listen to our instincts.
Exactly. And even if you do everything right, you might still find yourself in a situation that feels like a Badger game. Remember, you're not alone. The most important thing is to call the police. They're the ones who can really investigate these crimes and help the victims.
It's not always easy to come forward, but it's the best way to stop these scammers and protect other people.
And there are also organizations out there that fight fraud and help victims deal with what they're going through. So don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening look at a pretty messed up topic. I think we can all agree that knowing how this stuff works is the best way to protect ourselves from scams like the Badger game.
Definitely. If we understand the scammers' tricks, stay cautious and don't let shame shut us down. We can stop this kind of exploitation and make the world a safer, more informed place.
Great point. So to our listeners, stay informed, stay safe, and always trust your instincts. Until next time, keep diving deep.